Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest expansion-packed episode of the Switch It Up show. I am your host today, Seth Trav, and even though it's super dark times, I hope the times don't get more dark, even though that's the title of my game that I'm reviewing today. But before I get into that, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to introduce our friend Glenn. And how are you doing today, my guy?
I'm doing all right, my man. Like how you weave in the titles, bob and weave, my man. That's the only way to survive these days.
You gotta juke, you gotta jive, you gotta shimmy and shake, do all the sweet things, and sometimes you even gotta switch it up. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, you know we gotta let these sweet, sweet beats ride. Gucci, ladies and gentlemen, letting it roll, Rick, roll, and ride is what we do here.
It's so good, man. Every once in a while, you just gotta let it go. I was complimenting you on your beanie through Google Meet here, you know.
You were, in fact.
Yeah.
Thank you, Google Meet, and thank you, Gucci, for supplying us everything we need to be able to perform the fantastic Switch It Up show. And thank you to our good friends over at Huge Pixel for giving us More Dark. It is $4.99 and it's currently available on the Nintendo Switch, and you get 25 gold points when you purchase it digitally.
Love me those
Not points, but it is coins. Jump on platforms and capture prisoners to clean up hell after the Lord of the Otherworld went on vacation. His leadership was temporarily taken over by his sweet daughter, Evelina, and chaos ensued. The prisoners of damnation have all escaped from their confinements and scattered about the kingdom, shattering the fragile peace of the devil's dominion. Your task is to return order to hell, corral the escaped convicts, and cleanse each area of chaos and anarchy. Can you save hell, or perhaps earn redemption? It features 60 levels, a variety of mechanics, hidden keys to unlock hats, gloomy, stylish pixel graphics, and retro-inspired music. It is from our good friends over at Retaliaca Games and developed by the people at Huge Pixel. So, ladies and gentlemen, More Dark. Let me start off by saying that the music is very, very good. I do enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's catchy, which a game like this needs, because it is a lot of very, I want to say, like, almost Kid Icarus style, like look, Kid Icarus in look and style, but gameplay maybe a little bit like a Mario. It reminds me an awful lot of this game I played on my phone called Tiny Tower. The sprites look an awful lot like that if you happen to do the iOS games or mobile gaming. The game is interesting. The levels themselves vary wildly in difficulty and confusion in how the puzzles are all set up. They're all relatively easy, but some of them are so simple that you are going to spend a lot of time just being like, wait, how am I supposed to do that? At the end of every 10 levels, I believe it is, or maybe 15, you do have something of a boss fight. It's interesting because they're different. The one I played, it reminded me an awful lot of a fight that you'd have in like Mario 3. And another one, it was like a game of Breakout, where you're just bouncing these people and hitting these like demons in this Breakout style bubble bobble type thing. It's interesting, but overall it's a little repetitive, and I feel like it's kind of monotonous overall. You do earn power-ups, you do gain like extra things, but none of it's reason enough to have to go back to a level. You don't ever really have to do that. You just keep kind of pushing forward, and like I said, it varies so wildly in difficulty that it's a little odd, just the pacing of it overall. But overall, it's a quick game, and if you're a real big fan of retro stuff, you'll probably really enjoy this. And for $5, it's not necessarily that bad. It's just overall, maybe not necessarily, if you're not the biggest puzzle fan, you're probably not going to enjoy it that much. Or retro games, for that matter. So, because of all that, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to give More Dark a 3 out of 5.
Not a bad score, my man. Not record-setting, but par for the course, I feel.
Pretty much, I would say. It's an okay game. It's definitely okay.
Hey, my dude. Like in tough times like these, sometimes okay is good enough.
Yeah, right. It gets us by.
I'd say that my game is riding right alongside that kind of just okay vibe, as you would like to say. And that title is going to be Sam and Max Save the World. This game right now is currently $19.99 on the Nintendo eShop, eligible for 100 golden coins when you make that purchase. That's 100, ladies and gentlemen. Not 1, not 2, but 3 digits. Now, let me go ahead and hit you with a little bit of the synopsis. Sam is a 6-foot canine detective with a love of justice. Max is a hyper-kinetic, rabbity thing with a taste for mayhem. Together, they're the freelance police, and they're about to save the world. In 2006, the comic book crime-fighting duo Sam and Max starred in the first full-fledged episodic game from Telltale, the studio that went on to make The Walking Dead, and Batman: The Enemy Within, and the Jurassic Park game that they didn't mention, and the Back to the Future. They have all types of point-and-click games, so if you like point-and-click, this one is one you won't want to miss. Now, everyone's favorite dog and rabbity thing are back in the Sam and Max Save the World Remastered, a new version with the first season of episodic games that has been lovingly updated by a small group of the original developers with the blessing of the Sam and Max creator Steve Purcell. It's just another day at the office for the self-proclaimed freelance police when the commissioner calls in with a disturbing report. Former child stars are running amok in the street. What starts as an open and shut case of idiotic vandalism balloons into an all-out conspiracy as Sam and Max encounter one miscreant after another who have been mysteriously hypnotized. You can tell from the spinny thing they do with their eyes. Who's the source of this malfeasance, and what is their dastardly plan? Cracking this case will require Sam's nose for detective work, Max's lack of conscience, and an assortment array of items, and a little help from neighbors Sybil, Bosco, and Jimmy Two Teeth. From Sam and Max's street to the White House lawn, inside the internet, and all the way to the moon, this baffling mystery gets weirder and funnier as it unfolds. Return to the adventure game that was once called gaming's first sitcom, and today is known as the remaster you didn't know you were waiting for. With enhanced graphics, Joy-Con and touchscreen support, an original jazz score with 5 new tracks, and the same brain-tickling puzzles and offbeat humor that won it IGN's Best Adventure Game of the Year award back in the day. Same sentence. Sam and Max Save the World Remaster is a modern classic that will be right at home in your Nintendo Switch library. This game is for one player from the wonderful people over at Skunk Cape Games. Again, as they mentioned in the synopsis there, this is a remaster of the Telltale game, and it is a throwback because this game basically came out in 2006. So back in 2006, did we have purple hair, Seth Trav?
Did we have purple hair? No.
That's
not yet.
That's my favorite. Like, I want the Seth Trav action figure.
2008.
I need the Seth Trav Scott Pilgrim edition.
Yeah,
with the purple hair. So in 2006, this came out, and it came out on the Xbox 360, and it also came out on Windows, and it was on the Wii. So this is interesting because in a way, this is like a remastered Wii game. So it's a throwback. This game right now is 13 years old. And of course, if you're a fan of the original Sam and Max, like, Sam and Max Hit the Road, based on the comic book, but Sam and Max Hit the Road, that came out in like the early to mid 90s. And that was like a classic point and click adventure game. And that was my first experience with Sam and Max. I played.
I remember that as well, back on like the Gateway computer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Some of the first games, that like I know that I played, like aside from like Sonic and Mario, like one of the first PC games I played, like this is in that like first 5, that Sam and Max. And as soon as I saw that a remake or the sequel, quote unquote, and this is the remake of that, was coming out on the Switch, I was like, yo, I love Sam and Max. I'm like, this is gonna be great, because in my brain, Sam and Max is Sam and Max Hit the Road, and I'm like, I don't know, 7 playing it, 7 or 8. So I remember it being like I don't know, just really fun and like nothing I'd seen before. Because at the time, when that game came out, like there were like cartoons and stuff, but computer games that were also a cartoon were like,
right?
They were like unheard of.
Playing an actual cartoon.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. So the fact that these characters are like talking, you're controlling them, and like it just blew your mind. It sounds like now, like obviously, like that's nothing. Like there's nothing at all. Like we're in virtual reality. We're in AR. We're doing all this stuff. Like I'm talking to my house to tell it what temperature to make it. Like it doesn't even compare. But at the time, like it was wild. So I was like, yo, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be just like that. And in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. And it's really hard for me to be totally fair with this game because I am like comparing it to Sam and Max Hit the Road, which I feel like is also like maybe overrated or spoiled by nostalgia for like the love that I have for it. So I don't know if Sam and Max Hit the Road holds up. So my experience with this might kind of give me a peek into like my memory and be like, maybe it wasn't quite as great as I remember it, because Sam and Max Saved the World, I'm not exactly enamored with it, but there are some things I like about it. It is a point and click adventure game, just like Sam and Max Hit the Road is. It's the same type of style. You're going to be going through trying to unfold the story of Sam and Max and their adventures and solve their crimes by doing point and click and engaging in a series of dialogue with different characters. It's very much so like a hidden object game in a lot of ways, where Sam and Max go from one locale to another, and they have to investigate different objects to drive the story along to further propel the dialogue. And the dialogue is pretty cool here because every single character in the game has a voiceover. Now I don't know if the original like Wii, like if that was the case, because I couldn't imagine going through and sitting down and like reading the screen for this long, because it's broken up into 7 episodes. So and you can play them in any order, which is kind of cool. It's almost like episodes.
Series.
It's the
right?
full. It's the full thing. Yeah. Which is cool that you get it for. I think I said it was $19.99. Like that's not. Oh, it's right here. That's $19.99. That's not bad for like the whole thing. It's
gotta be a good few hours of
each
story
one.
There, like 8 hours or something, right?
Yeah, each one is probably about an hour and a half or so. So like at least that's how long it took me to beat one of them. So like it takes.
That's a season of a TV show right there. That's a Netflix Saturday.
A season in that? Oh, I mean for all of them. I'm like, what speed are you watching a whole season in 90 minutes? I'm like, you are a maniac. I need to get you help right now. But yeah, like it's essentially like watching a movie, like playing each one, unless you just by chance happen to make all the right dialogue choices. But I mean, that's not really. I feel like that's not really feasible because some of the puzzles are like more straightforward and some of them are a little bit trickier. But there's definitely like a little bit of like adult humor in here, not like a ton. It's not like but it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's rated teen. So like that sounds about right. There's nothing wild in here, but there are a couple jokes that I'm like whoa. It'd be interesting to see if like that's what Sam and Max was always like. I feel like the answer to that is probably yes, because they were always a little off the wall. Sam was kind of normal and Max was always a little nuts. But basically what you're doing is you're like you get called to this case in a convenience store, and there are these former child stars who are like dropping off these videotapes, and you find out that the tapes are like kind of there to I don't really want to spoil anything, but they have an effect on the viewer. not quite the ring, more like they live. And they have to try to like, fight the evil in order to like, be triumphant and save the world, for lack of a better term. But same type of style. The graphics are like on point. It looks like a prettier Sam & Max. I'd be interested to see like what this looks like on the PS4. Something with maybe a little bit more graphic power, because the edges of like the characters still look a little rough. It doesn't quite look as smooth as like the screenshots do. At least it didn't. It didn't for me. They do say there's 5 original jazz songs in there. You do hear them. It's cool that they're original. I certainly couldn't compose better jazz, but you notice it. You're like, oh, that's kind of fun. But it felt like it was a little repetitive to me, to be honest. And maybe the fact there's only 5 original songs in there, maybe that's why. Because over the course of 90 minutes, that might loop a lot. But it's not bad. The thing is, like, Sam & Max, like, I remember it being a ton of fun when I was a kid, and it just wasn't as much fun this time. Like, their jokes really are super corny. They're super corny. And they're not even, and like, as a fan of like corny and like, like I'm making every dad joke I can, like, all the time, like, it's not funny. Like, they're telling jokes and I'm just like, like, Max is just kind of like wild to be like funny to be funny. Like he's more like, like he's like the type of character who would like repeat you, like, and you're like, I know who you are, but what am I? It's like a lot of that type of like jokey stuff, which is cool if you're like, 7.
Definitely more for the middle school.
Yeah,
definitely more for the first time point and click adventurer.
Yeah. I feel like they might get a kick out of this, and this is in fact rated teen, so they could totally play it without anything too wide. I mean, whatever, man. They're playing like GTA 5, so I'm pretty sure they can handle Sam & Max. But I just wasn't as impressed with it as I wanted to be. So maybe, like, to be fair, like, I had like an idea in my mind of what the experience of revisiting Sam & Max was going to be like, and this didn't hit it for me. And I don't know if like, I don't even know if the original one would hit that for me. Because anybody who sees this comes out on the Switch, they're going to see Sam & Max, and if you know what Sam & Max is, you're probably in a certain age bracket. So, and you probably have it like, in your mind how it was. I don't think any like, younger kids are seeing Sam & Max and be like, I'm going to check that out. And if you are, then awesome. But I mean, I just don't know. For like the main audience of Sam & Max, like I feel like you might be a little bit disappointed by this, unless you're like huge into it and you never stop playing the games and like, this is your vibe, as Setrav says. In which case, awesome. You'll have a good time with it because it is a Sam & Max game. Like the controls are just like that. It's just, I don't think the characters like age as well as like I would have liked them to. So this is kind of more of a reminder of like, hey, like that was a long time ago, Glenn. like you're old. But for me, I feel like I'm gonna give this like a cautious like 3 out of 5. I'm not as pumped about it as I was, but I'm not gonna be hard on it for no reason, because it is what it is.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, today on the show, it turned out that we had some so-so games. You could go either way on them, really. They're not necessarily the best, but they are there for somebody. Let us know if they're there for you. Get at us. We're over at SwitchITUP Show on Twitter. I'm at Seth Trav. He's at From the Crib. And together we are the Preach Network, Preachcast on Twitter. Be sure to hit us up, Preach Network on YouTube. Be sure to rate, like, subscribe, all those great things. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, if any of this ever got boring, you can always switch it up.